That's right, a new series, a new time, so make a date.
Friday at 8. Make out a McCasley toy.
Ooh.
Be there tomorrow at 8 on BBC One. Now on BBC One for an update on tonight's developments in the Crimewatch studio, it's back to Nick Ross and Sue Cook.
Well, welcome back. We've had what I'd call a slow but steady volume of calls while we've been off the air this evening. In particular, we've had about 200 calls on the jewellery robbery in Halifax and a huge number of calls on the attack on the young woman in Darlington. And names have been mentioned there, but it will take some time to work through all those calls. Meanwhile, the murder case in Glamorgan. Nick?
We never thought we'd get a huge volume of calls on this. The shooting of Harry and Meghan too, the retired couple at their farm in Glamorgan. The whole event is as mysterious as it's tragic. No one saw a visitor, nothing seems to have been stolen, and friends can't think of any motive. The only clue appears to be a teacup. While relatives and neighbours tried to reach Harry and Meghan, their best china was on the table. It looked as though in honour of an unexpected guest. And Detective Superintendent Colin Jones has been hoping that somebody will ring and say, well, I was there this morning, you can eliminate that because I was their guest. But nobody has.
No one has, no, unfortunately not.
And yet, far more calls than you expected. Some of them I see with sort of quite, well, it must be said, rather trivial possible motives, but do you suspect it could even be a trivial motive at the bottom of this?
Yes, some of the calls refer to lines of inquiries we have pursued, but this is the type of call that I want to hear. Any suggestion as to the reason as to why they were killed, please call us.
At the moment, it must be said, you have no idea for a motive and no idea who might be responsible. You really are looking for anybody who knew Harry and Meghan.
Yes, that's correct. Anybody at all that knew Harry and Meghan, please contact us.
Now, the one thing you have had a lot of calls on, and actually quite a lot of detailed information, is a gun identical to this, which was stolen. It's very unusual with this sort of release mechanism at the bottom, which was stolen from Harry about a year ago. Now, you think you've got a lot on there?
Yes, we've had some very interesting calls in relation to the shotgun, which will form part of a specific line of inquiries. Indeed, numerous calls as regards sightings of a gun very similar to the one stolen in September.
So it looks as though the appeal might solve some other crimes, but so far you've got no real advance on the murder. Sue?
Well, protocol next, and we've had some calls on that. First of all, the distinctive Building Society robber in Sussex.
Yes, we've had over 40 calls, Sue, which is excellent, but most importantly, 3 give the same name, so that's hopeful. Plus, there's a very strong Kent connection, which may involve further offences. So the officers, I'm told, are very encouraged by that, so fingers crossed.
And what about the 3 people who are wanted in connection with the use of forged passports and travellers' checks at Heathrow Airport?
Again, over 30 calls, so a large volume, but unfortunately only a few suggested names. There is one name for the older man that's looking good, but if you do know these 3 people, please ring in. We do need to know who they are and where they are.
Jackie, thank you very much.
Next, this very, very distinctive, I think it's a goalkeeper's shirt, really, which features in the sex attacks in Darlington. A teenager was raped as she walked home one Saturday, and not long before that, a stranger had been seen wandering around a nearby sports centre.
When I saw him standing there, I just froze. I was really shocked. I didn't know for sure whether or not he'd left the changing rooms.
Now, Mr. Ryan, you were really hopeful that this, which was only recovered a couple of days ago and is still in its bag to seal it for forensics because it hasn't been tested yet, you were really hopeful this would be identified, it would point to an individual. You still haven't got that one named individual clearly out in front, have you?
That's right, but we have got several names and several lines of inquiry which are promising and which we are interested in and which will be followed up in due course. We appreciate that, obviously, if we are talking about a member of this man's close family, it will take them some time to come to terms with the fact that they may have to name him. I would urge them, in view of the seriousness of the offence, to take that step, give us a ring and tell us all about it.
Perhaps we could just put the video fit of this man. In fact, there are 2, of course. There were 2 descriptions. You rather favour the one on the right, don't you?
That's right, yes.
You think
yes.
he's sort of a bit younger, probably in his early 20s rather than late 20s, or...
That's right. Our favourite between 18 to sort of 23, 24. Very muscular build, tanned legs, 5'6", 5'7", stocky build.
And he nearly killed one of the victims of these attacks. Incidentally, we've had a number of women who've called in and said that they have either been intimidated, followed by somebody of identical description, or perhaps even a little stronger. And if that's happened to you, please do call us. The lines will be closing here shortly, but you can call the Instant Room, which is on Durham 091 386 9011. There's the number, 091 386 9011.
Well, next, the robbery at Lister Horsfall Jewellers in Halifax.
Hello, yes, there's a robbery in progress in Cornmarket. They're driving off, they're going up Cheapside.
And the men abandoned the stolen Honda bike they were riding less than a mile out of town. Well, Martin Peel, you seem to have quite a good number of calls there.
That's right. We've had over 200 calls, actually, but unfortunately not very many with strong leads.
You did have some sightings of some men answering that kind of description with a blue Astra car.
That's right. We've had sightings of the men with the Astra car in both the Merseyside and Pennine areas of the north of England.
So you do need sightings of them around Huddersfield, Liverpool. We were hoping to get sightings of the men with the bike they seem to own, that Honda with Q plates. It was very distinctive.
That's right. Again, somebody must have seen them with this distinctive red, white and blue Honda VFR 400 NC24 type motorcycle. Black men were on a high-powered motorcycle of this type should have been seen. Somebody must know.
And the Q plates are particularly distinctive.
That's right. As I said, again, this motorcycle is distinctive because of the Q plate. It's NC24. The black man, again, to describe him, is in his early to mid-20s, 5'10" tall, stocky build, with black short hair, black moustache that comes to the side of his mouth. Somebody must have seen this man with this motorcycle.
I'm sure we must get a call sometime. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Quite interesting call just coming in beside me, but I haven't had time to process it yet. Let's go to incident desk. What's been happening there, David?
Yes, first of all, in relation to that group for attempted robbery up in Durham, well, we've had over 50 calls. A lot of the calls have been about the walking stick that we featured. We think it's a homemade one, although we've had a call from a man who says he was asked to actually specifically make one like this for somebody. We think this is actually a billiard cue with the dog's head on the top.
What about the Newcastle assault?
Yes, we've had a lot of names suggested. In fact, we've had the same name suggested by 3 different people, and there's a good response come in. We think there may be other victims linked to that attack who've not yet called us, and if you're a victim and you think you've been attacked in the Newcastle area and you haven't called the police, please come forward. You may have vital information that hinges on solving this particular crime.
Very quickly, the Milkman robbery?
Yes, we've had calls about the artist's impression that we showed. A possible suspect and a place where he visits has been identified. We've also had suggestions on where those milk tokens that were shown may have been offered for sale in large quantities.
And the murder of Tony Howe, north of Paris?
Yes, only 3 calls there, Nick, but in fact one of them was from one of the witnesses that we were trying to trace, Dwayne. Well, he's phoned to say he knows Mark, and he's also mentioned Nick and Steve, who we know were staying at the bar Ramona at the same time as Tony.
We didn't mention them on the programme.
We didn't, but hopefully if they're watching, still call us.
Very quickly, the Cannock post office robbery.
Yes, we've had 2 different officials from the criminal justice system ring in and offer the same name for somebody involved in that, and there are a few other names to follow up, so we're hopeful.
I think one of those is being acted on right now. Sue.
Well, we're keeping the lines open here in the studio for another 15 minutes or so, till 12:15 on 0500 600 600. You'll see the relevant local numbers in a moment. If you can help in any way, please do call us. If recent events have been anything to go by, we should have more progress to report a month from now.
And that's all tonight. So, unless you've been responsible for anything we've shown tonight, don't have nightmares too, please. Sleep well. Good night.
Good night.
He's every woman's dream, but one woman's nightmare.
Do I get to know what's going on, or do I just get killed for all time's sake?
This is not a good time to be talking about this, Marianne.
Hi!
Together, they're running for their lives.
Hop on! Come on, hop on!
What are you doing here?
I missed.
The heat is on and sure to be rising. Mel Gibson and Goldie Hawn. Bird on a Wire, tomorrow at 9:30 on BBC One.
Well, this is how Bird on a Wire fits into the rest of Friday evening's lineup here on BBC One. At 7, every second counts for this week's contestants, aiming for the big prizes. A new series and a new slot for Tomorrow's World at 7:30, reporting on the latest developments in science and technology, including a reusable aircraft specially designed for fire training, and the strange tale of how Vietnam is funding scientific research with the help of a French aperitif. Bruce Forsyth returns for a new series of The Generation Game at 8, when more brave family couples compete for the chance to go for the famous conveyor belt and its host of prizes. Bird on a Wire, as we said, is at 9:30, and then finally at 11:15, take your place firmly behind the sofa as we open up Dr. Terror's Vault of Horror for a chilling double bill, a nerve-jangling end to Friday night on BBC One. Well, nothing scary about the weather. Tonight most places will have a few breaks in the cloud, but also showers, which will be heavy and prolonged at times. Much of Northern Ireland and Scotland will be cloudy and wet. Tomorrow further showers are likely, and parts of the north may have longer periods of rain. In the south, however, showers may become fewer in number, with brighter spells and some sunshine developing. All areas will be rather cool and breezy, with temperatures about 2 degrees lower than those of Thursday. The unsettled weather is expected to continue, with more rain at times, but the wind should slowly decrease. And that's the weather.
Are you all right, Tansy?
Even when you take care and switch an appliance off, its flex can still be a danger. Kettles and irons stay hot. Keep flexes out of children's reach.
That was a public information film. And it brings us to the end of another night here on BBC One, although